नारे सलावत
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على النبي الأمي أبي القاسم محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل وبارك وزد على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والصولة الحيدرية والعصمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والآثار الباقرية والمعاصر الجعفرية والعلوم الكاظمية والهجج الرضوية والجود التقوية والنقاوة النقبية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية دافع الكرب والمحن صاحب الجود والمنن إمام محمد بن الحسن قائم بالقسط بأمر الله صلوات الله عليهم وأجمعين صلوات As you know, every year on this date, I take a few moments of your time and make a presentation to you. And my effort has always been to bring you something new, relevant to Azadari in the Fazail al-Masab of Masumeen, and try to fill gaps in information, the information that you get at this Farsheza. Today, what I brought for you is basically 3 points. I have a few minutes in which I have to cover these 3 points. The points are: number one, the significance of the chain of Imamat. And in this chain, the place of Imam Hassan, and how Imam Hassan's eventful life is related to Karbala. And then how and why. Before I say the third point, let me add this as an introduction. In this chain, every Masoom has been mentioned with a specific attribute. And Imam Hassan is mentioned with Hilm, 3-letter word, He, Lam, Mim. That's a very specific meaning. Hilm, but it doesn't mean that that particular Imam is only associated with that particular attribute. When we said Shuja'at al-Husayniyah, every Imam is Shuja'. Every Imam is Shuja'. When we said Hilm for Imam Hassan, every Imam is Halim. When we said Ulum al-Khazamiyah, every Imam has the Ilm al-Laduni. When we said Hujaj al-Radawiyya, every Imam had occasion in his life that he confronted the infidels, the enemies, and the first thing he did, he tried to convince the opponent with logical reasoning. So every Imam is Hujjatullah. The greatest fazilat is Imam Ali because he is Abul Aimma. Otherwise, every Imam's duty is to lead the community on the right path, protect and preserve the message of Islam, and spread the knowledge that was given to mankind from Allah through our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The very striking point is that from the Azadari's point of view, there are two very important and significant personalities who are not mentioned in this chain with specific attributes. Janab-e-Zainab and Hazrat Abbas. Now, this is a very technical point. The Maulana is sitting here, and we all learn from him very much. He will confirm this, that the only reason that these 14 Masoomin are mentioned here in this chain is because we take all Islamic teaching, particularly Islamic law, from these 14 personalities. Quran, Hadith, everything comes to us from these 14. This is a very technical, legal point in Islamic ideology. But we cannot imagine a moment in Janab-e-Zainab's life that, Maazallah, she would have committed a sin. She is Masoom for all practical purposes. Hazrat Abbas is Masoom for all practical purposes. Ali Akbar is Masoom. There is no doubt about it. But this is a very technical, legal point that has been presented to us in this. A little piece from the middle of Darood Tusi. Darood Tusi is a long Darood. And if you have a Zaiful Abrar at home, you can go home and check it and find in the middle of this piece that I have recited here. But we have identified Janab-e-Zainab as Sharikatul Hussain. Because without Zainab, the story of Karbala is incomplete. We have identified Hazrat Abbas as Ghazi Abbas. You know, there were so many shaheeds in Karbala. Everybody went to fight and got martyred. Nobody is known as Ghazi. Hazrat Abbas is known as Ghazi. You look at the bunting of the alam and you see Ghazi Abbas written on. Any country you go to, Iraq, Iran, India, Pakistan, you will see this alam, Ghazi Abbas. So the third point I'm going to present to you today is why Abbas is Ghazi. Salawat. You know, when we take these names, Zainab, Hussain, Abbas, it is very difficult, at least for me, to separate Fazail from Mazahib. Every time that name comes to mind, you come to tears. At least I do. And I think all of you will agree with me that these names are associated with Dard, with Marsiya, with Noha. Another point is that every Masoom who did not live together, they always had a spiritual connection with the other Masoom. And this fact has been identified not just by us, the Azadar, in the wider world at the academic level. And various scholars have written books on Karbala and what we do in Azadari. And one of the most famous names is a German professor, Annemarie Schimmel. She died at the age of 90 when she was teaching at Harvard. And all her life, she explained Marsiya and Noha, Farsi and Urdu and Arabic. Extensive work she has done. And one of the pieces which she is writing about, one of these street dramas which are done in Iraq and Iran, she describes the scene in one of the dramas and she says, in one such drama, Hassan and Hussein are shown fighting together. Hassan and Hussein are shown fighting together. Now here is her comment. And then she says, this is historically incorrect. This is historically incorrect, but passionately it is correct. Emotionally it is correct. Because if Hassan had lived with Hussein, he must have been at Karbala fighting together. This is her conclusion. Not a Muslim, a professor of Harvard. And we believe that every Masoom has a connection with every other Masoom, spiritually. Salawat. So why is Imam Hassan identified with hell? Once again, there are many young men and women in our community. Can you please move forward? At least the young men, they can come here. This space is empty. There is a lot of room here. Please come forward. There is a huge compendium of Islamic information published by a company called Brill, B-R-I-L-L-E. And the name of this collection is Encyclopedia of Islam. It's about that big. Only universities and colleges can afford this book. So if you want to consult this book, you have to go to a university library. And even there, you may have to pay a fee to enter that library. So it's not easy to access. If you have an opportunity, if you're a student, go and find this book, Encyclopedia of Islam. A new Encyclopedia of Islam is called, and it's still being published. And these people have collected all the major scholars of Islam across the world, Europe, America, India, Pakistan, and they find the best people and they ask them to write a specific article. There is a specific article in this encyclopedia, Hilm, H-I-L-M. Read that article and you will understand. I don't have a lot of time. I'm only covering things in a few minutes, which would take hours otherwise. So read this article and see what I'm talking about. And at the end of the article, the writer, who is a professor of course, writes this commentary that in Islamic history, all scholars invariably have used the word Halim for Muawiyah. And if this definition of Hilm that we have defined here is correct, then nowhere near Muawiyah goes to this attribute. Their conclusion, not our conclusion, their conclusion. Now, Islam identified these personalities with different attributes at different times, depending upon how they were confronted at a specific occasion and how they reacted to this situation. For example, we identified the Siddiqeen at Mubayla, according to the Quran. And Mawla Ali is identified by the Prophet himself as Siddiqi Akbar. Salawat. And our Bibi is identified as Siddiqa Tahira. Very briefly, what does this mean? Siddiq. The word for truthful is Sadiq. Our scholars have defined this Siddiq, and Siddiqa means a person who, even if by accident or inadvertently says something which is not true, becomes true. This is the definition. Maulana is confirming. So Muslims decided that we will have our own Siddiq and our own Siddiq. Quran said these are the Siddiq and this is the Siddiq. Muslims at large decided that we will have our own Siddiq and our own Siddiq. History is cruel. History doesn't do any murawwat with anyone. History tells the truth. So what did history do? History brought the Siddiqa of Quran to confront the Siddiq of Muslims? You all know history. I'm only reminding you. And if any young men are not sure what I'm talking about, please ask your elders. And the Siddiqa of Muslims came to confront the Siddiq of Quran. You all know history. Similarly, the Halim of the Quran identified the Masoom, Halim. His confrontation was with the Halim of Muslims. And history proved who was right, who was wrong, who was truly Halim and who was not. And it was confirmed by the open, wide world at the academic level. So this guy is nowhere near Halim, if this definition is right. So this is all about Imam Hassan's character, why he is known as Halim. Circumstances were such that right after the passing away of the martyrdom of Imam Ali in Kufa, the next day a meeting was held in the Masjid of Kufa, where everyone agreed that the right person from now on to take the Khilafah is Imam Hassan ibn Ali. Salawat. People of Medina and Makkah in the next few days confirmed it. Now the point for you to take home is this, that before this, all other Khalifas were appointed in emergency situations. Everyone, the first three. The first Khalifa who was appointed by public opinion in peacetime is Imam Hassan. And the irony of history is that the first four Khalifas are known as Khulafai Rashidun. Imam Hassan's name is not included in that list. But there is a hadith of the Prophet that after me, the Islamic rule will last 30 years. And after that, there are kings. If you work out, look at the history books. Imam Ali's time ends 21st of Ramadan, 40th Hijrah, 29 years and 6 months. This is a fact of history. And I ask you to go and research. That 30 years cannot be completed without including Imam Hassan's 6 months. Salawat. And in the 6 months, political maneuverings, treachery, deceit, bribery was at work extensively, and Imam Hassan had to abdicate. What did he abdicate? What did he abdicate? Imamat? La hawla wa la quwwata. Imamat is bestowed by Allah, announced by the Prophet or the previous Imam. Imamat is not acquired by the ilm of Jafar and Jami. Please remember this. This is kufr. If anybody says that, the Imam becomes by any worldly knowledge, according to our belief, it's kufr. Imam is appointed by Allah, announced by the Prophet or the previous Imam before. Salawat. You all read this surah in your namaz. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Wa ma adraka ma laylatul qadr. Laylatul qadr khayrun min alf shahr. And what do you know about Laylatul Qadr? What is it? It's better than 1,000 months. Of all people, Imam Hassan was asked about this. And he explained that once my grandfather had a dream that monkeys are jumping up and down his pulpit. And he was greatly saddened. And Jibreel came and said, Ya Rasulullah, let me give you the news that after you, Banu Umayyah would take over your pulpit. And they will jump up and down this pulpit. and make a mockery of Islam, and their hukumat, their sovereignty will last 1,000 months. So when Imam Hassan relinquished power and retired to Medina, people would come and ask him, why did you do this and what did you do? And then Imam Hassan finally one day said to one of his friends, do you know what I gave and what did I retain? And he said, no. Mawla, you tell us. And the Imam said, we gave Muawiyah 1,000 nights and we still retain Laylatul Qadr. Salawat. You all very intelligent people, and you should understand what the Imam means by this. And if you have the SV Mir Ahmad Ali Quran, go home, open Surah Qadr, and read the very fine print note commentary on 3 pages. You will get it. And if you are an Urdu reader, go and read Maulana Farman Ali's tafsir, and you will find this story on the Hashia. And if you have other better tafsirs, more detail, you will find it even more. Even in the famous Sunni tafsir, Durr Mansur by Suyuti, you will find this story, inshallah. Salawat. Just to connect my presentation with the next part, before the abdication, there was a lot of trouble within the camps of the Shia in Kufa. And Imam Hassan was preparing to continue the fight which Imam Ali had left after him from Siffin. And he was collecting army and he was calling everyone, come and go with us and let's finish this off. And there was rumors spread, bribery worked. And at one point, the Kharijis who had fought Imam Ali had joined Imam Hassan because he was going to fight with Muawiyah, not because he loved the Imam. They were enemies of Islam, but only because of political reasons, Kharijis had joined with Imam Hassan. When they heard that the Imam is not going to fight, they attacked him in Madain. They plundered his camp and they wounded him. And they stole property from him. In that property was a horse. The name of the horse was Tawiya. Toy Alif Vav Ye Choti Ye. Tawiya. This horse had been with the Ahlul Bayt for a long time, and as you know, horses are very loyal animals. And this horse knew everyone by the voice, by the smell, by the looks, by the way everyone rode. The horse is a very sensitive animal. So this horse knew everyone, and this horse was stolen. And then it disappeared. 10 years passed. Imam Hassan was martyred. Karbala was building up. And you know how we relate Imam Hassan's abdication and martyrdom to Karbala. You've heard many speeches on this. And you heard the Masiyat, Brother Shaukat Naquvi recited, and there is a line, Hum qabr mein tumhari musibat ko roenge. This is the connection. This is the connection. And that's why Imam Hassan sends Janab Qasim to Karbala. This is the connection. So, now before I go to the final part, I want to give you a diagram in your mind how Karbala was set up. 2nd of Muharram, Imam Hussain and his small caravan arrived and they camped at the banks of a subsidiary canal of Furat, which was known as Al-Qama. Obviously, when you go to a place like this, you want to be closer to water. 4th of Muharram, armies arrived and they forced Imam Hussain to move his camps away from water. Hazrat Abbas put up a resistance. He was ready to fight. We will not move. We arrived here first. We have women and children. Why should we move away from water? Imam Hussain pleaded with Abbas, brother, we haven't come here to fight. Let's move. They were moved 2 miles away. from the banks of Alqama. In the coming days, more armies arrived. And on the 7th, water was denied to them. The bank of Alqama was lined up with hundreds of forces. In the end, there were 7,000 soldiers guarding the river, about 2 miles along the river. So the camp is in one corner, and this huge army surrounds the camp in a half moon shape so that nobody can escape. At the back of the camp, Imam Mohsin dug a ditch and lighted it with fire so that nobody will attack them from the back. All worldly precautions are being taken by the Imam. But this is the important point of Battle of Karbala. And this huge contingent, how many thousands we don't know, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 200,000. And they are surrounding this little camp, and behind them, a mile away, is the canal Alqama. And the Alqama is now guarded by 7,000 other forces. So there are 2 lines of enemies, and the camp is in the middle. So Imam Hussein's companions get up, ask Imam Hussein's permission, they go and fight, and they get martyred. What can one man do against all this fortification? Imam Hussein goes, picks up the dead body of his companion, brings him back to the tent which is dedicated to this. So nobody is able to cross that front line of forces. There are so many, so well guarded, let alone getting to the river. It was only Hazrat Abbas. Only Hazrat Abbas, who comes fighting with such speed, such ferocity. He goes right through the front lines and ends up in the middle of this part of the force and that part of the force guarding the river. So now he's at the other side. And then he turns around the horse and comes back and goes through this force and comes in the front. And he's killing ferociously. Now Umar Saad is perturbed. What is going to happen? Soldier after soldier is coming to fight Hazrat Abbas, and they all get killed. And in the middle of all this, one man stands up. His name is Marid ibn Sadiq. And he says, "You guys, move away. I will kill this young man. Clear the battlefield for me." And Shimr looks up and says, "Okay, let him go. Let's see what he does." And Marid is a very big guy, heavy, overweight, but famous soldier. And he comes to fight Hazrat Abbas. And they have rajas and exchanges, and then he attacks Hazrat Abbas with his lance. And Hazrat Abbas stands there quietly, and as he comes close to him, he just grabs his lance and pulls him, nearly pulls him from his horse. So he had to let it go. And then Hazrat Abbas turns around and hits his horse with the lance, his lance. The horse becomes uncontrollable. Marid falls down from his horse. Now for a big fat man, when he falls, it's very difficult to get up. While Marid is struggling to get up, he's also screaming at his soldiers, "Bring me a new horse, bring me a new horse." So the soldiers bring him a new horse. And this horse doesn't go to Marid, it comes to Hazrat Abbas with his head down, and he stands there. Hazrat Abbas looks at this horse. He leaves his horse, mounts this new horse, and then he rides back very patiently to Imam Hussein, who is watching from the other side. He jumps from this horse. He kisses Imam Hussein's feet, and then he says, "Mawla, this is the horse that was stolen from our brother in Madain. This is the Tavia." And then he says final goodbyes. And he comes through, and you know the battle of Hazrat Abbas. He goes through the battle scene. He ends up at the river, and he fights away all these 7,000 soldiers, and they are pushed away hundreds of yards. And this lone soldier riding his horse up and down along the river, and nobody has the courage to come closer to him, let alone fighting. Hazrat Abbas puts his horse in the water, takes a handful of water, looks at it, throws away. He fills his water skin. Now the river is running at a slope. So when Hazrat Abbas comes down, he's going downhill with an empty water skin, alam, sword. Now he's riding back. He has the water skin full on his shoulder, alam, sword, going uphill. Can you imagine the ferocity of this soldier, the first soldier of Karbala? And he has to fight through these soldiers. And you know, I'm not going to read the entire Shahadat. He loses both his arms. The water skin is pierced. The water flows away. Hazrat Abbas is martyred. Imam Mohsin comes to his side and he breathes his last. Now you know why Hazrat Abbas is known as Ghazi. You know, this is Fazail of Hazrat Abbas as well as Masaib of Hazrat Abbas. So you know what Ghazi means? Ghazi, who goes to fight, wins the battle, recovers the stolen property. The river was taken away from Imam Hussain and Hazrat Abbas on the 4th of Muharram. He recovered the river. He filled the water skin and he showed that the river belongs to me. He recovered the horse which was stolen from his elder brother 10 years. And these are the reasons we know Hazrat Abbas as Ghazi. Imam Hassan's Masaib, as I said, are very great. When his coffin was being taken, you all know this story, I'm just reminding you. Marwan was following with a contingent of Umayyad soldiers. Aisha had come riding his donkey. And when they saw that the coffin was going towards the graveside of the Prophet, she put up a resistance and she said, I will not let Fatima and Ali's son be buried in that place which used to be my place. This is real history. Muhammad Hanafiya, another brother of Imam Hussain and Imam Hassan, was a young man, 25 years old. He stood up and he said, O Ummul Mu'mineen, when you came confronting our father, you were riding a camel. Today, you're trying to stop our brother's funeral riding a donkey. And I'm sure if you lived a few more years, next time you will confront us riding an elephant. Aisha was incensed. She was very angry. What does she do? She doesn't protest. She looks to Marwan, who was leading the Umayyad soldiers, and she says, O sons of Umayyah, you would just watch as the children of Banu Hashim will taunt at me? What is this language being used? If you go and read Saqifa, this is the language her father had used to raise the jealousy of one tribe of Medina against other tribes. It's the same institution, same message, personalities have changed. And this is the message of hatred that is coming along in generations. So what happened? Marwan pointed to the archers of his contingent and they all started firing arrows. And arrows pierced the coffin of Imam Hassan. And when the Tabut comes, you will see that we commemorate that tragedy with arrows attached to the Tabut. And this is, history is coming through all these 1,000 years. Today, in Pakistan, in Iraq, in Bahrain, wherever terrorists attack, they wait until those who have been killed and martyred in terrorist attacks are being buried. They cause a second explosion. This is the repeat of that Umayyad throwing arches and arrows at Imam Hassan's coffin. So history is coming through. Don't forget it. How would you react? In this country, you are the voters. You have a constituency. You have a senator and you have a representative. He is beholden to you. You have a lot of power. Write to your senator. Write to your representative that this is going on in the world. This is Zulm. What can you do for us? There are 2 pieces of paper outside and there will be volunteers helping you. These are letters that you will sign with your email address, your mailing address. The mailing address and zip code is very important because that is how you will identify your senator. You don't have to do anything. No money is involved. All you have to do is sign the letter, leave it there. It will be mailed for you. And you can continue this activity for anything. Anything. It's going on in Pakistan, it's going on in Bahrain, it's going on in Iraq, and now Syria. This is all very serious. You have to take action. You know, I have said this before and I will say it again before I go. Any public activity that helps Azadari, you should exploit it. Any public activity that serves humanity and Azadari can be used for it, you should exploit it. And I'm repeating it again. And this is one of those activities. And before I go, I have one other message. Azadari is a very, very significant institution for us. It has kept us alive for all these 1,000 years. It protects us and we protect it. So you have to be very careful in this new society that you will not let any outside influence come into Azadari which will be detrimental to it. And I'll just give 2 pointers. America runs on commercialization. Don't let commercialization take over Azadari. There's plenty of information for you. America thrives on star power. Don't let star power come into Azadari. Keep it intact.
Yes, sir.
And respect the value,
Yes,
the honor and the dignity of Azadari.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you very much, Brother Mohsin Naquvi, for enlightening us.